I'm excited to talk to you about something that can be life-changing, if done right, how to buy your first rental property. And whether you're just starting to think about real estate investing or you've been considering it for a while but didn't know where to begin, I want you to walk away from this talk with the clarity and confidence to take that first big step. Now, when most people think of buying a rental property, they either imagine some ultra-wealthy investor with dozens of properties or someone who just lucked into it. But I want to tell you that owning rental property is within reach for ordinary people, people with regular jobs, student debt, families, and even those who are renting themselves. What it takes more than anything else is education, preparation, and a bit of courage. First things first, let's talk about mindset. Before you even look at properties or talk to a bank, you need to understand why you want to own a rental. Is it financial freedom, passive income, retirement security? Maybe you just want to diversify your income. All of those reasons are valid, but the reason I ask you to reflect on that is because this isn't a get-rich-quick strategy. It's a long game. There will be challenges, tenants will cause issues, markets will fluctuate, there will be maintenance surprises. If you're clear on your why, you're much more likely to push through when the going gets tough. In 2025, the market looks a lot different than it did even just a few years ago. Rising interest rates, tighter lending standards, and increased competition in certain areas mean that you have to be more strategic than ever. But here's the good news. This environment also creates opportunity. People still need places to live, and if you approach this with a plan, there's a real chance to do very well. So how do you get started? Start with your personal finances. Before a bank will lend you money, they want to know you're financially responsible. That means having a steady income, a solid credit score, ideally above 680, and enough cash for a down payment and reserves. If you're not there yet, that's okay. Start where you are. Pay down high interest debt. Build a budget. Track your expenses. Even small progress each month adds up. You don't need to be rich to get started, but you do need to be intentional. Speaking of money, let's talk down payments. For your first rental property, if you don't plan to live in it, you'll likely need at least 20% down. For a $250,000 property, that's $50,000, and that's before closing costs and reserves. But if you plan to live in the property, say you buy a duplex and rent out the other unit, you might qualify for an FHA loan with as little as 3.5% down. That's a game changer for a lot of first-time investors. House hacking, as it's often called, is one of the smartest ways to get started. Once you have your financial foundation set, it's time to do your homework. You need to learn your market. Not all cities or even neighborhoods are created equal. You want to find an area where rents are strong compared to home prices, where vacancy rates are low, and where job and population growth is happening. Look for areas with access to public transportation, decent schools, and low crime. These are the things that attract and keep tenants. I always recommend starting with just one market. It could be your hometown or somewhere nearby. Dig deep, learn what properties sell for, track rents, talk to local property managers, join real estate meetups, read local news. The more you know, the better your decisions will be. And don't just rely on Zillow or Redfin. Drive the neighborhoods, walk the streets. Real estate is hyper local, and boots on the ground knowledge will give you a huge edge. Next comes the question of what kind of property to buy. Should you go for a single family home, a duplex, a small apartment building? For most first-time investors, a single family home or a small multifamily, like a duplex or triplex, is a great place to start. These are easier to finance, often easier to manage, and there's more demand for them from renters. The key is to run the numbers. You're not buying this property because it has granite countertops or a cool backyard. You're buying it because the rent it brings in covers your mortgage, expenses, and still leaves a cushion. Let's go over a quick example. Let's say you find a duplex for $300,000. You put 20% down, that's $60,000, and your mortgage payment with taxes and insurance comes to about $1,800 a month. If each unit rents for $1,200, that's $2,400 a month in income. Subtract your mortgage and you're left with $600. But you're not done. You still need to budget for maintenance, vacancies, and property management if you're not doing it yourself. A good rule of thumb is to set aside 20-25% of your rent for those expenses. That brings your cash flow to around $100, $200 a month. Not huge, but it's positive. And you're also building equity, getting tax benefits, and someone else is paying down your loan. Over time, that's how wealth is built. Now, I know some of you are thinking, only a couple $100 a month? Is it even worth it? And I get it, but think long term. What if you buy one property this year, another in 2 years, and a third 5 years from now? By the time you retire, you could have three properties fully paid off, generating thousands a month in passive income. That's the vision. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about making the actual purchase. Once you find a property that looks promising, you'll want to run the numbers carefully. You'll need a good real estate agent who understands investment properties, not just someone who sells homes to families. Your agent should be able to help you evaluate rent potential, neighborhood trends, and resale value. You'll also want to get a home inspection. This is not the place to cut corners. You need to know what you're getting into. Foundation issues, plumbing, roofing, these things can be expensive surprises if you don't catch them early. If the inspection comes back with major issues, don't be afraid to walk away. There's always another deal. Once everything checks out, you'll move toward closing. That's when you finalize financing, sign a mountain of paperwork, and finally become the owner. Congratulations, you're now a landlord. But the journey doesn't end there. In fact, it's just beginning. Managing a rental property takes systems, boundaries, and clear expectations. If you choose to manage it yourself, be prepared to screen tenants thoroughly, collect rent on time, handle maintenance calls, and enforce your lease. If that doesn't sound appealing, or if your time is limited, consider hiring a property manager. They typically charge around 8 to 10% of the monthly rent, and they handle the day-to-day headaches. Either way, treat your rental like a business. Keep good records. Set aside money for repairs. Stay on top of local landlord-tenant laws, and always treat your tenants with respect. Happy tenants are more likely to stay, take care of the property, and make your life easier. Let me also say a word about risk. Yes, there is risk in owning rental property. The market could drop. Tenants could stop paying. A pipe could burst at 2 a.m., but there's also risk in doing nothing. Inflation eats away at your savings. Jobs can be lost. Retirement can sneak up on you. In my opinion, the smart play is to take calculated risks, and owning rental property, when done right, is one of the most reliable ways to build wealth over time. One more thing, don't get analysis paralysis. You can read every book, watch every YouTube video, and run numbers for years, and still not take action. At some point, you have to make the leap. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Every investor has stories of deals they wish they hadn't done, or ones they wish they had. Learn from them and keep moving forward. Remember this, real estate rewards patience. The deal you buy today may not make you rich tomorrow, but in 10 years, you'll be glad you started. I often hear people say, I wish I had bought back in 2015 or 2020. One day, people will say that about why not make sure you're one of the people who actually did. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Buying your first rental property is not about hitting a home run. It's about getting on base, build your foundation, learn your market, save your down payment, analyze deals, take action, and then repeat. Each step will make the next one easier. And before you know it, you'll look up and realize you've built something meaningful, not just financially, but in terms of confidence, freedom, and legacy. Absolutely. Here's an expanded version of that point, about 300 words, without headings or highlights. Before you even start looking at properties or talking to lenders, the most important step is to build a strong financial foundation. This is the bedrock of your ability to successfully buy and maintain a rental property. One of the first things you should focus on is improving your credit score. A higher credit score not only increases your chances of getting approved for a loan, but also helps you secure better interest rates. Even a small improvement in your score can save you thousands of dollars over the life of a mortgage. So pay your bills on time, keep your credit card balances low, and avoid opening new lines of credit right before applying for a loan. Next, saving for a down payment is critical. For investment properties, lenders typically require around 20% down, which is higher than for a primary residence. That means if you're looking at a $250,000 property, you'll need about $50,000 upfront, plus additional cash for closing costs and reserves. It may seem daunting, but having this money saved shows lenders you're financially responsible and ready to handle the risks of being a landlord. While saving, try to build an emergency fund as well to cover unexpected repairs or vacancies. If coming up with a large down payment feels impossible right now, consider strategies like house hacking. This means buying a multi-unit property, living in one unit, and renting out the others. This way, you can often qualify for loans with a much lower down payment, sometimes as low as 3.5% through FHA programs. It's a great way to get started with less money down while generating rental income immediately. Finally, Make sure your overall finances are in order. Reduce high-interest debts to improve your debt-to-income ratio, which lenders carefully review. The goal is to present yourself as a low-risk borrower. The stronger your financial foundation, the smoother the loan approval process will be, and the better your financing terms, setting you up for long-term success as a rental property owner. One of the most important steps in buying your first rental property is to thoroughly research and choose the right market and property. Real estate is very local, and what works well in one city or neighborhood might not work at all in another. So you want to spend time learning about your local market or the market where you plan to invest. Look for areas with strong rent-to-price ratios, which means the rent you can charge is high compared to the property's purchase price. This ratio helps ensure you'll have good cash flow once you own the property. Also, investigate vacancy rates in the area. Low vacancy rates mean renters are in demand, which reduces the risk of having empty units that don't generate income. Growth potential is another key factor. Neighborhoods with rising employment opportunities, improving infrastructure, new businesses, or planned developments usually signal a healthy real estate market. These areas tend to attract long-term tenants and see property values appreciate over time. A good way to get this information is by checking local government websites, real estate reports, and talking to people who live and work in the area. When you're ready to choose a property, start with something manageable, especially if this is your first time. Single-family homes or small multi-family buildings like duplexes or triplexes are often ideal because they're easier to finance and manage. Larger apartment complexes require more capital and experience. Before making an offer, always run a detailed cash flow analysis. This means calculating all your expected income from rent and subtracting all your expenses, including mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and property management fees, if applicable. Your goal is to find a property that not only covers all costs, but also provides positive cash flow each month. This financial clarity will help you avoid surprises and build a sustainable rental business over time. Once you've purchased your rental property, the real work begins, and it's crucial to treat your investment like a business from day one. Whether you decide to manage the property yourself or hire a professional property manager, the mindset you bring will greatly influence your success. Managing a rental property isn't just about collecting rent. It involves a range of ongoing responsibilities that require organization, consistency, and professionalism. One of the most important tasks is tenant screening. Careful tenant selection can save you a lot of headaches down the road. This means running background and credit checks, verifying employment and income, and calling previous landlords. Good tenants pay rent on time, take care of the property, and communicate clearly. Avoiding problem tenants is one of the best ways to protect your investment and maintain steady cash flow. Proactive property maintenance is another essential aspect. Don't wait for things to break down before fixing them. Regular inspections and timely repairs prevent small issues from becoming expensive problems. Keeping your property in good shape not only preserves its value, but also keeps tenants satisfied, which encourages longer leases and reduces vacancy. Keeping clear and accurate financial records is critical. Track all income and expenses related to the property, including mortgage payments, repairs, utilities, and property management fees if you use one. Good records make tax time easier and help you understand the true profitability of your investment. Finally, always be prepared for unexpected expenses. Set aside a reserve fund to cover emergencies like sudden repairs or periods when the property is vacant. Remember that real estate investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Success comes from patience, persistence, and a willingness to learn and adapt as you gain experience. Treating your rental property as a business from the beginning will put you on the path toward long-term financial growth and stability.